Thanks, Francois. Hi, everybody. It's so good to be here and meet you all. Like Francois said, I'm Deedi, and I head up content at Bubble that includes editorial and SEO, but also video, education, social media, and a little bit of project management, which is very fun. So let me get my screen shared here. So I'm going to talk about how I built this competitive messaging intelligence tool in AirOps. If you're not familiar with AirOps, don't worry, I'll give you like the TLDR on that in just a couple of seconds. But just to set the stage of kind of what the challenge was for us. As Francois mentioned, we are in the AI app development space. Bubble has been around for a really long time. We have been a no-code platform. We have millions and millions of users and apps, but obviously the last 2 years have been very dynamic for our company, a shift into like a whole new space. And so it's a whole different ball game, right? Vibe coding came on. We're talking about vibe coding today. It changed everything. It went mainstream really fast. The problem is that all of these players are really struggling not to sound exactly like everybody else. It's chat with AI to build apps. Like I could say that, and you could think of probably 10 different companies that I could be describing. So everybody's like constantly trying to figure out how do we not sound like everybody else. Also, our competitors are moving really fast. They're extremely well funded, and they're really throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall. And the way that they might talk about themselves or the industry really changes like overnight sometimes. And they're also shipping features really, really fast. So things like that are happening really quickly, and we need to stay on top of it. Before, we were really watching this manually. We had a Slack channel. People would see it on Twitter, or they would see it in a newsletter, and people would send it, and we would kind of just like all keep ourselves informed. But that was like not fast enough. So my counterpart on the PMM side really led a really good initiative that I think he does quarterly, where they really like analyze all these tools to see what features they've launched. But we also needed to solve the messaging piece. So that is where my AirOps workflow comes in. So what this is going to do, you're going to see is we have a set of competitor that we've defined that we're tracking. We are tracking messaging shifts and also product launches now. And then there's a report that gives you. So I'm going to switch over to the actual workflow. So if you're not familiar with AirOps, basically what it enables you to do is combine a workflow with a grid so that you can run these workflows at scale. So a really like small example of that is like, let's say you had 200 images that needed not a meta description, you all know what I mean, the tag that describes the image. So you could like have one image in each row. You could upload the image into the row, and you could like up here click this play button, and it would run the workflow on every single one, and then it would draft that for you. So it's like, but like a lot of people use it for content creation, content refresh, etc. So I found this use case. Basically, the way that this works is this is the competitive set that we have identified. And if I go over to edit workflow, you can get a peek into what this looks like in the background. But essentially, the way that this works is we have our brand kit and the knowledge base that comes built into AirOps, and that includes all of our positioning information. And it also includes all of the previous snapshots that this workflow took of our competitors. So it will come in, it will look at our latest brand kit. And then it will go in and it will iterate through all these competitors. And what it's doing is it's scraping the homepage, all of the pages linked in the main nav, and the last week's worth of blog posts for every single one of these competitors and comparing them to each other and also to the snapshot that it took last time the workflow ran. Then, once all of that iteration is done, it basically like analyzes if there's been a shift in messaging or if there have been any product releases, and it assigns the messaging shift a score from 1 to 10 on how like severe of a messaging shift that was. And if it has a messaging shift or a minor or major product launch, it will send a Slack to our competitive messaging Slack channel where we all get those, and it will also include that in the report. Then it like summarizes everything together into a report that we can dig into and formats the output. So if I go back over here to show you what that would look like, let's take Replit as an example. So if you have seen me demo this before a couple of weeks ago, something that I added was the product launches, because that week Replit announced Agent 4, and we did not catch it with this because it was a product launch and not a messaging change. And so I have now combined those things. So you can see here that last week, this runs every single week. It's scheduled to run on Mondays. So this past Monday, it found a notable shift in Replit's positioning, a score of 5 out of 10. And it also found a major launch. And so now we can open up this report and we can see that summary and Also, these are the key messaging changes, right, that we can review. This goes in the Slack message. Here is a summary of what the recent launches were, and that also goes in the Slack message. And then if we dig in, we can see an overview of how does this like specifically interact with our own positioning. And then if we really want to dig in, it summarizes like their homepage title tags, all the value props that they're currently showing, some of the feature claims, et cetera, et cetera. And then we don't stop there. If so, like there's either a launch or a shift or just a lot of intersection, it might tell us that we should consider responding. And in that case, I can run this workflow, which drafts LinkedIn captions for our CEO to go in and comment on like what we're seeing in the industry or this recent launch. So I'm running out of time. And so just to wrap things up here, a couple of things we're still figuring out. Is the website scraping the right thing? Should we also be including some of these social posts, their founders' social posts, or would that make us too reactive because they're testing things out on social and like the real messaging shifts make it to the website? Also, how do I continue to improve that Slack alert to make sure that like my colleagues are reading through them and that we are all paying attention to them, making sure that they're concise enough and that the bullet points are working? And then also, is a CEO post the best like, response format when we catch a shift? How do we like internally then gauge like, okay, this said we should respond, but do we really want to? Ding, ding, ding.